Stewart here. I'm with Liz Trotter. Our guest today is Matt Donnelly, and this is Smart Business Moves.
Woohoo!
Matt, welcome to Smart Business Moves.
Thank you, Tom. I'm excited to be here, and I've been awe after watching the show for a few years now. So very excited.
You know, Matt and I have become friends. He is a very significant part of the Maids franchise brand and has a really large branch up in New England, several locations actually, all under the Maids flag. And through Matt, I've met some other folks from his organization. It's really a cool group of people, and Matt does some really impressive things within the industry, and we're all going to learn something today. We appreciate you taking some time this afternoon to be with us.
Thrilled to be here. As Tom said, I think, one of the biggest things I think about scaling, whether we're going from 0 to 500,000 or 5 to $1.5 million or whatever those points are, the biggest thing is networking. And getting out there and meeting people who've been successful, people that are positive, have good vibes, and learning from them. And so, Tom, it's great to have had the opportunity to meet you. We've followed each other, I think, a little bit over the years. We were both in the Ionators, which is not an 80s punk band. Way back.
Remember the Active Ion?
I do.
Yep.
I have. I keep one of these on the shelf, actually. This one is silver plated.
Silver edition.
But we used to clean with these things, and they were awesome, weren't they?
Yeah.
It was a great concept. And one thing about Tom, I've always admired about Tom is not only probably, I'd say, the top 3 or 5 people ever in this industry, but willing to try things. And not everything works for various reasons. And that's okay, because we're not moving forward if we're not trying, and we make mistakes sometimes. And I know I'm preaching the choir probably to everybody that's on this call today. And Liz, you and I have never met before or spoken, but we almost did one time.
Okay.
It was in a bar.
What?
Okay.
In a
So
bar?
a few years back.
That's not surprising. Go ahead, Matt.
No. It was lunchtime. It was a few years back at ISSA show in Dallas.
Okay.
And I walked in this restaurant with a couple friends. Jim, Tom, Jim Harris Jr.
Oh, yeah.
So we walked in for lunch during a break. It was right in the pavilion across the street from the convention center. And there were 2 ladies at the bar, and you came and started talking to them. And you must have been working with them doing some consulting. And they were so excited to see you. And they were telling up and down all the successes they were having. I was listening to this, and I wanted to interrupt to introduce myself. Well, one, I was a little too shy. You're like a god out there. Goddess.
Oh, yeah.
So I was a little too shy, and then they were just so excited. I was like, well, I'm not going to burst. This is just too big of a moment for them. So I let it go. So we were that close to meeting.
Dang it. You never know. Ships pass. Whoosh.
That's right.
Well, I'm glad we're meeting now. I'm excited.
But the industry is, it's great for the industry to have you both, and everything you're doing. It just benefits everybody, and the added professionalism, whether somebody's on the franchise side or the independent side, we're all in the same game. We're all doing the same thing. There's enough customers for everybody. So what you've both been doing is absolutely fantastic, and thank you on the part of anybody in this industry. Much appreciated.
Gosh, I feel better right now. Thanks, Matt.
Well,
I do.
I guess that pretty much wraps it up for this edition of Smart Business Moves.
Succinct.
Okay, before we get into any more details, Tom, didn't a report come out today?
Consumer price index numbers came out, and I guess there's a top line number which has a whole bunch of stuff in it, but then there's a core, what they call a core number, which are the things that actually can be affected by interest rates, and it's the thing that the Fed's really trying to drive down. And for the last, I'm going to say half a dozen months, maybe more, it was like 0.4% month over month, which if you extrapolate that out as 5% a year or so. Well, it came up to be 0.2% core inflation month over month today, which is half of what it used to be. And there's a whole lot of people excited about that. And I've been so doggone busy today, I haven't even looked at the stock market yet, but I imagine it's doing a pretty good. Yeah. Good day on the stock market. So what does all that mean? It means that the interest rates that the Fed's doing might not be going up as much as quickly. Although they probably will still do another increase the next time they meet here in the next few weeks. But, the whole idea of having a really bad economic outcome is looking a little bit better in terms of like a recession or something because of that one silly number.
At least not as bad.
Right.
Yes.
So it was good news. It was good news.
It's hard. It's hard to say with one number one time. So let's see what. But that's a big change. So I don't know. Let's hope. Fingers crossed, everybody. Fingers crossed. Hey, okay. So what else? Do we have anything else that we have to talk about before we? Because I know once we start talking to Matt,
the hour will go by.
Yeah, and we're going to be like, oh my gosh, we're out of time again.
You want to talk about some events in August that people might need to be aware of?
Yeah, definitely. We need to talk about that. You want to pull up the links, and I'll remind people we have the Made Central live event that I know a lot of people know about, are registered for already, and because it's a popular event. I almost said ERCSI, but look, I caught myself. ISSA Residential and also Core Profit Builders, we decided to bookend on that event. So if you're going to the Made Central event, you might want to come in early for the ISSA Residential event or stay late for our event that is how to lead and manage with the numbers. You're going to learn all about these numbers and how to manage your numbers at Made Central. Well, how about learn how to manage the people that are working for you and lead your company by using that data? That's a piece that gets dropped a lot.
So I'm sharing a link off of Core Profit Builders that's going to the ARCSI event. Is that
Perfect. Yep. I think there is also keep an eye out for this, y'all. There is an assessment going out. It is 50 questions. We'd like to get as many people responding to that survey. It's in 5 different areas. We'll be using some of that data in our my event. No, not my event. The ISSA residential event on my session. My session is running your company, sort of A to Z. So we're going to be talking about 5 different areas, and keep an eye out. That should be coming directly from ISSA, and give us your insight as to where you sit from that survey, and you'll get a little score, tell you sort of what you need to work on and what to pay attention to if you're coming to the ISSA event. That was a lot. I said a lot there.
I'm on that, Liz. I'm going to fill it out. I want to make sure we get that link. We can share that a whole bunch of places. A lot of people need to fill that out.
Matt, we'll send it. We'll make sure you get it too.
Awesome. I am signed up for the event.
All right. Excellent. Good. I'll be able to meet you in person then.
That's right.
Nice. All right.
At some bar.
No, I'm so rarely at bars that when somebody says that, I'm like, oh, okay.
Well, when you're in Charleston, we'll drag you to at least one. You know that.
We always go to that one big. Is that a bar? No, it's a brewery.
It's a brewery, so it's
a bigger bar.
It looks like a bar. It's a really big
More
bar.
alcohol. I do love that place.
2 levels.
All right. Well, it's getting late, and I don't want to waste any more time that we have to talk with Matt.
Matt, tell us a little bit about your story. How did you get involved in the house cleaning industry, and just how did it all start?
I got pushed.
Okay.
So I've been in the industry now since 1995. So it's been a while.
Okay.
So my father was looking to invest in a different business, and I was looking at some different things. We just started looking at franchises, and we looked at different industries, and landed on residential cleaning. And it just seemed like the right fit. It was recurring revenue, scalable, low capital, not something that at any point soon was going to get wiped out by some disruption or technology. So it just checked off a lot of things on the list that made sense, and jumped in. And so I'd say, and I was not an all-star out of the gates by any means. I was probably one of the worst young owners of a residential cleaning franchise. And back then, and as a franchise, there were some advantages, but in general, the cleaning space was so much less mature than it is today.
Oh, yeah.
The easy parts of just throwing an ad in the yellow pages were good, but overall, it was a struggle the first few years. It was definitely a long learning curve to kind of figure it out. Certainly took a lot of perseverance and listening and banging head against the wall, and slowly things started to go from there. So we started just north of Boston, in probably half a dozen communities, and slowly started growing the area we're serving, and started buying out some other franchises in the area that had decided to do other things. And so through a combination of that over the last almost 30 years now, we now run most of eastern Massachusetts, including Cape Cod, New Hampshire, where I'm situated today, southern Maine. We don't go into Rhode Island or Vermont. So we have 7 to 8 offices, I think, right now, locations.
Wow.
Okay. So Matt, are you saying that your company is so large you don't know how many offices you have? 7 or somewhere around there.
And you'll be glad about this. I don't know how many teams we have.
Okay. Well, I'm
no idea.
Yeah.
No idea.
Okay, but you should know the number of offices.
I do. I do know our revenue.
Okay.
I know our labor cost.
Okay, so those are some good numbers. Actually, Tom, I would love if you would dig into some of the numbers with Matt, because our people do love to hear that data.
Love me some KPIs.
Yeah.
Core KPIs.
Yeah. If you're willing to share, so are you willing to share that information, Matt?
I'll share what I know off the top of my head.
Okay. Awesome. That's more than we could ask for. But we'll ask anyway. All right. Well, tell us what you got. What would small businesses that are, because we have a lot of people that are, in that area that you were back in the day when you said you were a bad business owner. A lot of our business owners are feeling like, I'm a bad business owner. How am I going to get there? It doesn't seem possible. Yeah. I was talking to a $3 million company last week that was saying, I just don't see that it's possible, Liz.
Wow. And that's significant. That's a big company in our space.
Well, I mean, small in comparison to you, though, right? Less than half your size. And so I think that you could be really inspirational to a lot of these companies that are feeling like, I can't do it. It's not possible.
It's interesting. It's like anytime we've taken a jump, whether it be from 2 million to 3 million, or 3 million to 4 million, it's we always try to get back to normal. And in that jump, there's obviously more chaos than usual. But getting back to where it runs and feels like it did at the previous point. Obviously, it looks a little different. But I think about it today. I don't feel like we're that different than we were at 3 or 4 million. We have relatively pretty much the same team in place. We have a fantastic team. I mean, which is obviously the key. They've been with us a long time, and a lot of them just came out of the field and just really grew up in the business. So it's kind of just always trying to get back and making things normalized again, looking at the same KPIs we were looking at before, having the same systems, the same training and continuous training. I guess one of the things early on, and I think it's probably really relevant today, for anybody scaling up. I think the book E-Myth, the E-Myth Revisited, I think was just an essential learning piece for me early on. When it talks about not having the business be about you and having systems in place and how to go from A to B, that was huge. Really helpful. I would encourage anybody who's looking to scale at all. That's a great resource.
And when you say systems, Matt, give us some examples of what you're talking about.
You read my mind.
We'll start with training. In early on, we were probably back in the late '90s. Put a structured training in place for new team members. It was probably one of the earlier certification programs, and still to this day, I'm a big believer of that. I know there's a lot of variations out there now, and I think not that there's one that's perfect or better than the other. I think the fact that there is that structure in place when a new team member comes in, how their orientation is set up, in that they feel like they're part of something, and that they're trained from point A to point B to point C in a very structured way, and that's communicated up front to them so they understand the expectations. In rolling that right into continuous training, big believer. In our case, we have weekly continuous training for all our teams, and we break it down into short snippet topics. So not even dusting, it would be something tiny within dusting, say, left or right, or whatever you want it to be, certain details. And so that structured training over the year is technical skills such as that, soft skills, most customer service, as well as safety training. So we have a rotating schedule with our safety training. We make sure we take attendance, and that's signed off each time in case for our records of the workers' comp or any trends or anything like that pops up. We just want to make sure that we've got ourselves covered there. So safety training might be in a lot of things that are common in the industry now. It's slips and falls, walking on an icy surface, going in the house in the winter, distracted driving.
So, when you talk about systems, I'm thinking about, okay, well, you need documentation. You need to say what you do and do what you say. But,
yep.
You've got like multiple branches and over a large geographic area, a whole bunch of people working for you. It's a lot more involved than just putting all this on a piece of paper. How do you make all that work?
We've gotten at times not as smoothly as we'd like it to be, but our management team is pretty. They're good at communicating with their branch managers, and smaller branch might be a senior team leader, or a bigger branch might be more senior position. All depends on where we're at the size of that office. But we try to stay in touch with them. So they have daily huddle calls with those folks every day about their day, what that's going to look like, what's happening in training. So the training itself, continuous training, is set up pretty much. They set it up at the beginning of the year, and it runs for the year. So everybody knows week to week what's going to happen. They have a review call, touch base on it, and that takes a lot of different formats these days. Obviously, video is used more now. There's a lot of different tools. Sometimes we'll do it as a Zoom call if it's something we need bigger. We want to make sure that message is precise. And others that show and tell, or have quiz games, and sometimes it's tests from like original certification tests. We'll break those back out again and do some different things along those lines. So
you do this weekly, is what I heard, right?
That's weekly, correct?
And so 52 different topics, and you just run them through. Do you have 52 topics that you recycle yearly, or is it?
Pretty much. Well, we have more than that. And then the topics may change occasionally based on trends. If we're seeing a lot of issues with kitchen floors, maybe something like that. And that's going to jump way up.
And your safety training changed a lot over COVID, I'm sure.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Yes.
A bunch of stuff in there. So, needed.
Although I think, as the more professional companies, I think, and there's, a lot of them out there, changed less than we expected. As we looked at it, we were doing a lot, other than wearing masks, a lot of the things we were doing anyways. It's just we didn't really communicate it to the customers that often because customers didn't care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it was like, hey, we're prepared for this. We got this down.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. So I think that is a good example of an advantage, like a system that you might have in place as you get bigger that smaller companies don't have. When a lot of the smaller companies were thrown for a loop, they did not have good, strong safety systems in place. Not only did they not have masks, a lot of them weren't using gloves on a regular basis. They weren't disinfecting. They didn't know the difference between cleaning and disinfecting and sanitizing. There was a lot of confusion out there for a lot of companies. So that is a really good example of how, as you grow, you create these systems that can manage. I like that you said you really didn't have to make a lot of changes.
Yeah, there was some adapting, and like I said, what do we? And that was a big question at that time. Where do we go with disinfectant? How far do we take it? And it's all do with a lot of those conversations that everybody had at that time. Is that good? Is that bad?
Yeah.
But we try to have training systems in place early on when we were really small. A lot of the stuff existed then, and I think it allowed us to scale because we weren't figuring out afterwards. Some of it seems silly and overkill when we were really small to be doing these things, but I think it was critical. For instance, how do you handle a complaint when it comes in? And so we had probably an overkill standard operating procedure for that early on, but it carried us a long time of how that got documented, how that got handled. A lot of things that Made Central has built right into it. That we were very conscious of early on because we knew if we were running 2 teams and we were going to be running 6 or 8, then it was going to become more complicated. And $1 million to a $2 million business might be twice the size, but it's exponentially more complicated. So having those systems is critical.
And if you didn't have those systems, you would never have known how valuable they were. I mean, I'm working on a concept here, and this is going to be awesome when we do this. I had an epiphany, Liz. I had an epiphany that
I love when you do this.
There's a difference between growth and scale. Okay.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we use them interchangeably. In the past, we've talked about, we've written articles about barriers to growth, where you can grow to a certain point and then you just hit a wall and you can't get beyond it anymore.
Yep.
And typically it's because, you have a team issue. You need another layer of management or something from a team standpoint that you don't have, or there's some understanding you need from a financial standpoint in terms of your financial modeling that you haven't figured out, or it's a technology issue. You don't have the technology and you don't even know what you don't know. You don't know the counter argument it's even holding you back until you have it. And then all of a sudden you're moving forward again. So growth is what you do when it's working for you. You're between these walls, if you will. But when you hit a wall, it's not really a growth thing anymore. It's a scaling thing. You have to scale over the wall in order to. This is a pretty good concept, right?
Yeah, I'm liking it.
Yeah.
And it's the things that you do that seem silly when you're small that give you the ability to scale over that wall. And you don't even realize that at the time as you're doing it. It's only after the fact, and you look back and say, gee, if I hadn't done that, I would still be stuck at that wall back there.
Right.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a point. Hey, I can run the customers or run stuff on index cards.
Uh-huh.
But the earlier a system is put in place, like I Made Central, that just opens up so many opportunities for the growth. It really changes things. It was in other things, running clean books from early stage. I've seen so many people in this business, or any business really, they'll run their financials on a napkin or by the bank account, and they got this thing called QuickBooks out there, but they don't want to touch it and they don't want to put anything in it, or maybe set up a chart of accounts. Let the accountant do that. I'm too busy. I'll get to it later. Oh, when we're making money, I'll put stuff in there.
I got a
Yeah.
shoebox with all this information, and I'll give it to the accountant and let them figure it out.
Yep. And that's another one. I think early on, using so many resources in our industry space now to learn how to do things and have templates set up. That on the earlier the better. From day one. If it's not day one and it's not done, then make it today. I think that's one of those really, really important foundational pieces to running one of these and to be able to have it grow. Because really, the books don't change that much over the years. I mean, as you both know, your income statement and your balance sheet, the numbers may be bigger, or in some cases smaller. But the concept and the complexity of the books really doesn't change that much. So have that in place day one and have it running for you, I think is really important in trying to play catch up and figure it out later.
All right, Don, don't worry. You haven't missed a ton, but you'll definitely want to go back and listen because, when you're talking to somebody at Matt's level, all of the stuff that he says, he's got lots of little jewels in there that you want to be able to hear that sound just normal to him, like chit chat, but to the rest of us are like, oh yeah, okay, that's important. We gotta, check mark, make sure that we're doing that. So I'm gonna hit on a couple of things. Tom, did you have something you want to say before I start asking a bunch of my questions?
No, you go.
Okay, so I made a few notes on those little jewel things that I'm talking about here, Matt. One of the things that you said was you have to have a good team. I think everybody when we did Foundation Scale last year, every presenter that came in that was talking about scale just hammered on the idea of how important the team is, and that it's not just like the individual people, it's the team itself, everybody working together and in the same vision, etc. And you said that team is really important, but that you also pretty much have the same team that you had, I think you said, at 3 million, right?
Yeah, for the most part, yeah, it's evolved a little bit, but not a lot. And it's interesting. We just brought back recently during COVID a customer service rep who worked with us 20 years ago and is now relocated to Florida, and she works remotely. But our management team's been with us quite a few years in different capacities, and they've grown with it, evolved with it, and just really know the inside and out so well. And it wasn't like any one individual went from a team member or team leader to a general manager or vice president overnight. It was just a journey. It just kind of happened. And so he's really just trying to involve people slowly over time in different aspects. And one thing I learned early on was putting the horse before the cart. It's like, hey, we're not big enough to hire somebody in the office. Well, if we don't hire someone in the office, we'll never get bigger. Mm-hmm. So it was, and early on, that's a tough leap.
Yeah, you have to invest.
That's always a hard one.
Sarah from Ames, Iowa, she has been a big proponent of this since forever, that she wants to be office heavy, and she believes that if you don't have that workforce, you're not going to be able to grow. So you have to be able to invest in those people to get that place. All right. So your message is the same. Okay.
And when you say office, in time, people are, it's the capacity to do more work. It's a combination of people and technology, and with AI, that's changing quickly. But in aggregate, you need to have the capacity to do more from a backroom standpoint.
Yep. Whether they're physically in an office, they may be at home, where a combination of. And you're right, technology is a key piece of that too. Yeah. And what communication tools we use day to day, and that's obviously evolved. And I think, and the nice thing about that is, things like with Zoom for phones or Ring Central or whatever products are out there, they're cheap and attainable for everybody. And they make it's a night and day thing compared to those old phone systems we used to
Oh
have.
my gosh, right? For all of us oldies who've been in business forever, yeah, we had regular phones. They didn't have like multiple lines.
You put your finger in it, and
What's the thing? Okay, so talk to me a little bit more about your team. What positions do you have? What before we get into positions now?
there's one thing I'd like to throw in before we lose this thought, though, in terms of staffing for where you want to go. Um, Matt, I'm sure you would agree that it's really important to understand your numbers, though, that you don't want to be spending money that you don't have, that
Right.
you need to make sure that you've got the cash flow to support that.
Yep, it might be a little tight in that period of time, but on each of those jumps, but absolutely, the cash flow has to be there.
Okay, so I think we're on the same page. I just want to dig in a little bit to the details. You had said that you have 7 offices, 6 or 7 or 8 offices. Yep.
Who knows?
You have 7, and you're doing about $7.5 million. I'm guessing
on a run rate. Yeah.
And I'm guessing it's not evenly distributed. So
Right.
do you have like an office that is very large and small? Like how
Yep.
is that distributed? Can you explain that just a little bit more?
Yeah, they vary from very small because one is this very seasonal area, and the labor market has just changed so much that it's been very, very difficult to recruit. And we're trying to decide how we're going to manage that over time, and things have changed as far as visas and students coming over that were tools we've used in the past. So we have some that might be very, very small, and a couple that are very big.
Okay, so I'm guessing one of the main things that people do when they have a lot of offices is they have like one person that's doing a job for multiple offices. I'm guessing that's your situation.
As far as oversight,
Yeah. So
yeah, there is some of that. So depending on the size, if it's big enough, then there would be one person that they're a branch manager or field manager overseeing all the teams, the day-to-day operational functions of those teams. I'm probably skipping way ahead on this stuff now. I'm thinking about it. Scheduling is centralized. HR is centralized. All the major functions, sales is centralized. So when we say a branch manager, it's really more of an execution position, not operation. So it's hiring, training, quality, more of those aspects.
Okay.
Getting the teams out in the morning, and hopefully they're smiling when they come back in the afternoon. If the teams are coming back in and out.
Do you have, so this takes me to another place, do you have offices at each one of the locations then that people are coming to in the morning and leaving, or?
We still do. It's something we're evaluating, and especially the big ones we do.
Mm-hmm.
So we still have offices. They really vary in size, and so we're debating if some we should run differently. We've dabbled in some different ideas in the past, like storage facilities and stuff like that, to be far further reaching places where people essentially work out of the house, and then they'll pick up the stuff they need, or a car if they need a car.
All right, so the numbers piece that I wanted to get to was around this idea. So you have a lot of offices, you have like 8 teams, some things are centralized, some things are individual offices, like your ops manager, execution manager. So 2 things. One is I'd love to know what all the different positions that you have, and then with your numbers, how do you determine who's paying for what? Do you do it percentage based? Does it change? Does it happen annually? How do you decide that you can afford it? Is it all just the revenue of like the whole entire company? Talk a little bit more about that.
As far we try to budget all, and this is something I learned from David Senseman, who is the longtime largest maids franchisee. He was out of Birmingham, and recently retired a few years ago. And so we typically have a budget of what we want to pay for overhead staff, and it'll run between 9% to 11% of revenue for support staff. And so it runs higher if we've acquired an office or in a growth mode, and we tend to be heavier, and
Yeah.
and at those points it hits the bottom line a little harder, and it's not always ideal, but it's kind of what we have to be. And then times we're running, it's a smoother growth period, like we're having this year, and then that number's going to run leaner, more like a 9%.
Okay.
So
That's
keep
good.
kind of working within there, and then we keep an eye on, okay, what are workloads?
All right. I got my little KPI list over here. That you tell us the things that you remembered. So before we fill in all those numbers here, I got this one 9 to 11. What are the positions that you have
Yep.
now?
So right now we have 3 top managers in the organization. We have a vice president of operations, and she oversees the day-to-day operations, but works very closely with the other. They work in conjunction with each other very closely. So she also handles oversight of our southern offices. We kind of just drew a line. And then we have an operations director who oversees our more northern offices. And then Christina is in office, and she handles a lot of our back end oversight of scheduling, aspects like that. And then between the 3 of them, as far as execution of initiatives and major things going on, then we've got 2.5 is 3 customer service reps, handling phone sales, day-to-day scheduling, customer calls, things like that.
So your salesperson and your customer service and scheduling is kind of one job. Yeah.
I've always done it that way. And over the years, I've seen and watched people do it a lot of different ways, where it's super dedicated salesperson or call center. Ours has always been more of a mix and not overly specialized, so people can jump in each other's seats if need be. It's just something that's worked for us over the years.
It seems to be working okay. So people might learn something from you. All right.
Yeah, it's when we're small. It's kind of what we all had to do,
Yeah.
and it just kind of stayed. It stayed with that, I think, and it
But
kept everyone more in tune to the customers. What's that?
But you're saying it still works at
Yeah,
7, right? Okay. So there's
still
some
working.
things that people know they have to change. Like we can't keep doing this stuff the same way. To be able to get to the next level, we're going to have to change. But it doesn't sound like this is one of them.
Yeah, I mean,
Want to have-
we've tried other things over the years. Don't get me wrong, and it's funny. We tend to come back, and we've tried things, and it's just, wow, this doesn't feel right. The organization just isn't running the way it should be. It's not as smooth, or we're not in the know, and obviously we can all tell if things are falling through the cracks, and if customer complaint calls go up, or customer frustrations or frontline staff frustrations grow, we know we're not doing something right. And I've always positioned it that anybody, whether they're overseeing an office or customer service rep or sales or manager, we're all there to support our teams. That's our role of all of us. We have, obviously, it's different responsibilities within there. And at the end of the day, we're there to support the teams, and they take care of the customers. So we've kind of kept that overriding philosophy for forever. Kind of a Marriott way of looking at things.
Do you feel your current leadership team gives you additional growth capabilities, either through organic with your current 7 branches or by adding additional branches, or is there more resources you're thinking about adding in order to give you the ability to keep growing?
Good question, and I've been back and forth on that. Not necessarily with our current core people, but what other resources do we need? And we recently we had another resource doing a lot of our bookkeeping, and we took a look at that and said, wow, we can actually use technology better and do things a lot smarter and be leaner and tighten up on that, which we did. So rather than making it bigger, we made it smaller, and we're running better. And our books are much cleaner. And but we did bring an outside person in to reconcile our books every month, so we have a second set of eyes on our books, but not necessarily doing the bookkeeping. As far as the management side, I think right now we do. Last year we grew. Last year was by far a record with organic growth. We grew about 1.3 million, and 800 of that was organic growth that just happened, and a lot of that was still comeback growth from COVID.
Okay.
So last year we got back over 19. We had closed for 8 weeks in 2020, and up here, so a lot of it was just kind of building things back up, but it came to us, and the team handled it remarkably well. And they grew 800 back the year before, and to still see the same team be able to do that just blew me away. And right now things are running very smoothly. So I could see us hopefully going to probably 10 million without a lot of major changes. I think we need to have more changes though in technology. So I don't think it's necessarily human capital we need. I think we've got good resources. Obviously, with growth, we'll have to plug in some pieces of more phone calls and things like that. But it's probably technology more than anything right now. I think that we would need to make that next leap towards 10 million.
Tell us a little bit more about the technology needs that you see yourselves needing.
Going back to handling a customer complaint. Not rather than a piece of paper and plugging in the system and having it lost into a system from there, something that it flows through, like Made Central has a really neat way of handling that, where it goes like Service CEO used to years ago, where a customer concern flows right to the employee file. So you have that tracking on that side, or a scoreboard over there, and that it gets on the next schedule. It's highlighted. In the past, I know with systems we've been using, it can fall through the cracks. We end up having a secondary calendar. We're using an accordion folder, a Google Calendar, our operating software. It's like, okay, that's probably not the best way to operate moving forward. So that would be an example of
That's a good
has to get streamlined. And so we wouldn't record. So it would streamline so much that, like I said, it doesn't mean we have to bring on more people, because the system's going to be better.
Well, Tom, we talk about that a lot with Made Central. I'm telling people that constantly, that depending on the size of your business, of course, but sort of the typical people that we see going to Made Central, that you're probably going to eliminate a person, right? We'll take the place of an entire body. So.
If you think about what Matt's doing, and he's been doing this since the mid '90s, Liz, we can relate to that. There was a time, Matt, where you were printing out pieces of paper and giving them to your teams every day, and they were writing notes on those pieces of paper and bringing them back at the office at the end of the day, and somebody was collecting all those pieces of paper up. And how many extra people would you need working in your office if you guys were still printing out pieces of paper and doing that? More than what you currently have, right?
And I know we're still way too paper heavy. I see every once in a while I'll see randomly see a bill for the toner cartridges. I'm like, wait a minute, why are we printing that? What are we printing?
Why are we having a bill for the toner cartridge?
Yeah.
All right.
So I actually think we're behind the times. I would say we're behind on that. I would say that's something that's that we could be better and more efficient, and help us grow better on that end.
But we're all more efficient from a backroom standpoint than what we were a dozen years ago. Regardless of what technology we're using. Right. I don't think many people are printing out paper work orders and trying to keep up with that. And if you're doing that on scale, that's a career for some people.
Yeah.
Some people are still printing work orders.
No, they're not.
Yeah, Tom, you just don't know what's going on because you're in the Made Central world.
I don't know any of those people.
Can't even imagine. You do.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's definitely there.
Well, please call me. We can fix that. That's not a permanent affliction. That can be cured. That's not a chronic thing.
But we'll make sure that gets fixed. For sure. Yeah. All right, let's talk, because look, already we only have 14 minutes left. I'm stressing out. I got a whole list of questions. All right, so Matt, I'm going to get back to KPIs. So you talked about your admin being somewhere around 9 to 11. How about your direct labor? Maybe either loaded or unloaded. What are you trying to shoot for?
Not loaded direct labor, including windshield time. We're running a little bit better now. Have been running heavy with all these wages jumping. Last year, I think we were running around 41, and we're running like 38 to 39 right now.
Okay. So
that's direct. So that's in home and driving back and forth between homes and the office.
Awesome. And how about your? I have so many. How about your? Do you know your lifetime value of a client, Matt?
I heard there's a software out there that's really good at that.
Well, I just wondered if you said you have some that you know off the top of your head. Why don't you?
Yeah, that's one that we have a lot of data in there that I don't have a means to get it out smoothly.
That's okay. Tell me what things you think would be helpful for what KPIs people might want to know about.
Obviously, we're always looking at revenue and comparing. We compare revenue every week to the same period last year because the seasonality tends to be so consistent. And we have some seasonality in our space, in our area, whether it be with holidays or warm and cold seasons. So we're always looking at a week, obviously day, week, month. And I tend to look at week and month and looking at how we're doing compared to last year and what our goals might be. Our team looks at it really on they're looking at a daily basis. They're having a daily huddle on revenue, so they've got a goal set up. And if they see the next day or next few days aren't hitting, then they're going to try to market to that. And if we've got, whether it be every 4-week customers on the next week or one-time work that's already scheduled, and try to bump them up, get them up closer. Because that gives us 5 more days to sell that other spot. If we can pull the one in that day, then that's something we've stressed a lot. And I think we've done a much better job of that. It's made a big difference over time. So not letting the schedule happen to us, but getting out in front and controlling it.
Yeah, nice.
I'm always happy to give somebody a discount if I can get them to move up 3 days, fill a spot for us. If we get a chance to fill that out the spot full free, that's a win-win.
Yeah, sure. A good way to grow your revenue without having to make any kind of really big changes. So
exactly. Yep.
All right. Do you have any other KPIs that you want to share?
We look at daily revenue per person.
Okay. Perfect.
What we're producing. I think about 300 now. That's been one that's been really interesting to watch change over the years.
Yeah.
Obviously with pricing and wages and factors like that, I don't know if we're that much more efficient than we used to be. But the numbers changed. Customer attrition, definitely customer attrition on a monthly basis. So looking at that as a percentage of our base. The same numbers I've heard you guys talk about over the years. I think you're spot on. That 4% a month might be an average, but 4% a month, especially as you get bigger, is a tough number to manage.
It's a lot of clients. Yeah.
So when hitting 4 is, we definitely don't want to be hitting 4. Sometimes we know after a busy season, they fall off because of a peak in the summer because they're going to come right back the next year. But I tend to shoot 3 or less.
Okay.
In my view, is a good number for us.
That's what we're telling people in our circles too. You start hitting 4, you want to start looking at that number harder. Yeah. Pop it up as a concern instead of having it bottom. Yeah.
And that figure really hasn't changed for us. I'd say even over the last 15 years, it seems to be the same percentages that we know. Like you said, if it's a 4, we got to start digging in here.
Look at that. How about your employee attrition?
We look at it.
Your team member management or
the team members, I forget what it is right now. It's getting better. I mean, through COVID, there was so many ups and downs
Oh my
and
gosh.
crazy. We had always been strong there.
I'm still traumatized.
Oh, no.
We, but when COVID hit, we hired almost exclusively single moms.
Mhm.
It was tough. It was a rough life. They shut down the daycares, and it's like, oh, all righty then. Not on the tough side. All right,
Yeah.
I have more questions, so I can't talk too much. All right, one point that you made that I want to just bring up again, because I think that a lot of people say the opposite of this. So I'm super intrigued to hear you say this, that most of your office staff came from the field.
Yep. Not
And
exclusively, but yeah.
Yeah, not exclusively, but you did say most.
Mhm.
And so that's
Well-
interesting because we hear that once you hit a certain size, the people in the field just aren't the right people. They're not going to be able to do that job. But you've found that to be true.
So 2 of our top 3 managers worked in the field. And the third, she came over from another residential cleaning company and had previously been in management with Walmart. And then the other 2, came up right through. And we happened to really fortunate that we had really smart people join our team. In fact, they both worked for other cleaning services. We tend not to hire people from other cleaning services, but they were within our franchise system. And that ended up coming over when we bought the office.
So
it worked out that way. Yeah. So it typically, though, as far as field staff, we don't hire people that have been with other services. It's always felt like we hire for attitude and work ethic, and we can train the skill. And so if somebody's with somebody else, they've learned another system, and the unlearning can be really tough.
Well, that's great because we all preach that, but I love hearing a company of your size saying, "Yep, us too." Right?
No doubt. If I can, we see somebody who's worked at a Marriott or something like that, great, because then they've had to have finished so many jobs over the course of a day, certain level of quality, take instruction, training, uniforms.
They do customer service. Yeah, they've learned some stuff.
But, it doesn't sound like this happened as an accident, though. I mean, you're on top of who you've got working for you and their experience and their skills. And we all probably have people working in our cleaning businesses that have skills and talents that maybe we aren't aware of.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm
Very much so.
Really good. If Matt's got 2 of his top 3 people came out of the field, chances are good we've got some talent there that is going unrecognized.
Yeah.
So that's a great little nugget there. All right, Matt, I got 2 big questions that I want to hit, and I've only got 5 minutes. So I'll tell you what they are, and then you can decide how you want to spend the time on them. The 2 questions are, how do you set your goals for the year? Like, what goals do you set? How do you set them, etc.? And I know that's a kind of a big question. And then the second one is, what's your job?
Okay.
So those are my 2 questions.
Let's see. Goals. We've done a lot of different methods over the years. We've done offsite meetings, and we will do things like strength, weaknesses, opportunities. We'll do SWOT analysis. It tends to be a little less formal now. I should say, we're always basing it on a SWOT analysis, I think. But we've done things like 4 disciplines of execution, and we've scaled down, I think, a lot since then, because I think we're in a good mode that we kind of are in tune to stuff, and we know where we want to be year to year. So we're looking at, okay, hey, this is where we want to be this year. What's it going to take to get there? What changes do we need to make? I don't do budgets. I don't do financial budgets. I never have. And just something we know what our P&L should look like, and we're watching our numbers. But we don't manage the budgets on financially.
Okay.
It's just not something I've ever felt was a good fit for us.
Okay. I love hearing that. That's great. All right.
We'll do quarterly goals, and we have initiatives. Different things we're working on throughout the year too.
So we'll finish with the best question. What's your job?
Yeah, what do you
My
do?
job, stay out of the way. It's become more and more every year. Stay out of the way. So I would say, it's strategic vision, helping identify what systems we need or what gaps, and help fill those, or resources to fill those. And I don't get a lot in the details anymore. They're good at it, and there's I can only screw it up.
Okay.
So yeah, you're saying it with a smile, but you're serious. You try
Oh,
to
yeah.
stay out of it and
Yep.
let them do their jobs.
Yeah, and that's again, it's something that's just evolved over the years as the business has evolved. Certainly not something but it was something I've tried to empower people. I've always tried to empower people, and let people do their jobs, and I've certainly not always been perfect at that. And certainly I've evolved as a manager, I think, a little bit too.
Well,
So,
I see.
big question there. I'm waiting for that one.
Yeah,
We work in teams with cars.
teams and your cars, right?
Yeah, our cars. Yep, we
All
still have our cars.
I mean,
Can I do a plug? If I can do one more plug, because we haven't really talked about hiring.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Mel Kleiman's stuff. I know you've had him on here.
Oh yeah.
Mel, we've worked with him closely over the years, and his book, I think it was hire slow, fire fast, or something.
Right.
Love it. It's a great roadmap. So if people struggling in that area, and I've never been a fan of assessment tests. The one he has is awesome, and we use it especially for support staff, customer service staff. And the only times it hasn't worked is because we didn't listen to it.
Ah.
And it's really about hiring people that have the right values and work ethic and attitude.
okay. That is work ethic and attitude. All right. I know. Oh, good. Mel's book there.
Hire.
Oh, there it is.
Manage easy.
Yes, another one.
He's got a bunch of them actually.
But if you just go to Amazon and you type in Mel Kleiman, you'll see his book.
He's got his interview questions here. 100 plus one top tips.
I don't see the hire fast fire.
I think it's the blue one on top. The higher.
I think he
top.
rebranded it to Hire Tough, Manage Easy.
Yes. Yep. I think that is the book.
Because it looks the same.
It's
Yeah.
more. It's probably more PC.
Yeah, probably.
Something else that might be of interest to folks. We a couple of years ago, it happened to be during COVID. It wasn't planned that way. We got involved with Dementia Friends, and it's an organization called DementiaFriendsUSA.com. And they have state chapters. And so many of us are serving customers that are aging, and our customers we had 20 years ago are 20 years older. So we became a Dementia Friends champion through this organization, where our managers can train our frontline staff to be what they call dementia friends, and that's how to communicate, how to identify possibly somebody might have dementia, how to communicate, how to bring that to somebody else's attention that you might see something, and where we're in people's homes so frequently, we see them more than their families do in a lot of cases. And I've seen it with customers we've had forever. So that's something that, and it's a good logo to have on your websites, Facebook pages, and so forth as well.
And I just have to throw this out here. I'm so glad that you brought that up, Matt, because a lot of times y'all struggle with when I'm saying your people need to have meaning in the work that they do. Look, Matt Donnelly bringing the meaning right here, right? He's saying, hey, I need to say this thing before I get off this call, Dementia Friends. So thank you so much, Matt. I love that you brought that up here.
We're in the business, at the end of the day, we're in the business of helping people. Yeah, it's more so than cleaning.
Here, since we're at the top of the hour, I'll give another plug. Come see Liz and myself and AJ and Gosha and a bunch of other Matt, Matt's going to be here. We're going to,
I'll be there.
on the 21st of August. I'll drop this link again. Matt, this is the first time you've done Smart Business Moves, but I sure hope it's not going to be the last.
I'd love to come back.
Oh my gosh, it would be amazing, Matt. I would love to have you back.
I feel like we're just kind of scratching the surface.
I know. I have so many more questions. I didn't have time to ask. I just wanted to get the ones that I knew people were going to be bugging me for later. So, thank you so much, Matt. Really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So,
Feel free to share my contact information.
Okay.
If somebody wants to reach out to you,
towards my
Matt, that's a
team.
good point. What's the best way if somebody wants to continue the discussion? What's the best way for them to reach you?
My email is mattd at themaidsma.com.
So you don't want us to give them your personal cell number?
That's 617
No.
953
No.
My desk line is 978 357 5535 is my desk line.
All right.
Okay.
All right, y'all. You
Thanks,
heard
folks.
that. Right? He's about helping. He really is.
Thank you, Matt. We'll do
Leave a
this
voicemail.
again.
I check I go through visual voicemail.
Thank
You guys have an awesome week. We'll be back this time next week, 5 o'clock Eastern.